Good morning, everybody. My name is Barry Schwartz. This is the Search Buzz video recap. Today is Friday, April 30th, and this is the search news we covered over at the Search Engine Roundtable at seroundtable.com over the past week. Got a lot to discuss. Over last weekend, there was potentially another Google search ranking algorithm update with a local algorithm update that's been rolling out all week. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with the local side. Google released a new indexing tool that lets you report indexing issues directly to Google, like a form, only in the US. John Mueller from Google explained how Google recognizes authors without using authorship. And then I go off a little bit on a DA rant, plus a lot more, so stay tuned. Okay, change the setup a little bit. Put a table here, put some boxes, etc., etc. Something to look at, I guess. I don't know, instead of this. And I do need a shave, maybe soon. I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, let's get into the news. So starting around April 23rd, I believe. Yeah, Friday, April 23rd. Last week when I did this video, rumbling started to happen April 23rd, April 24th, that Friday, Saturday time frame. A lot of chatter around Google doing some type of Google search ranking algorithm update. All the tools, for the most part, spiked around that. Google did not confirm any of it. People are saying maybe it was related to the product reviews update, but the product reviews update finished a couple days before that, actually the Thursday before that. So it's unclear exactly what changed. But then we have, all the tools like you see here showed significant changes. But then on the Bright Local tool, the local maps, like the local pack stuff, that's fluctuating like crazy. All week long, it's been high scores. And even yesterday, it was like triple what it usually is. So definitely take a look at that if you're in the local space as well. Lots of different ranking changes going on there. Not exactly sure what's going on. Bright Local is going to look into their ranking factors and see if anything specifically broke, but they don't think so as of right now. Big news, I guess. I constantly hear about indexing issues, SEOs and webmasters and site owners reporting indexing issues with their website. Google came out with a new form available in the US where you can actually report an indexing issue, and it basically takes you through this wizard type of effect to say, fill out these questions, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and depending on what you answer, Google will then, if you hit the end of the form, Google will then let you submit an indexing issue directly to them that they could investigate. It's about, I don't know, several questions or so. And if you answer the wrong way, Google will then lead you to a help article helping you fix any issues you might have. So if you say, yeah, I'm indexed, but I'm not ranking, Google will then take you to a help article about that. But only Google wants to know if there actually is issues with your site actually being indexed, meaning forget about ranking, just being indexed by Google. And this is a new tool that they came out in the US only right now. They might expand it more, they said. I wonder if that does mean that Google is having indexing issues and they're trying to investigate certain bigger indexing issues. It might be. Talking about indexing issues, Gary from Google said for a page to be indexed in the first place, it needs to go ahead and pass the quality checks to be indexed. He said this in a Reddit thread, and he basically said, let me quote you, mind you, it's not, basically using the request indexing feature in Google Search Console's URL inspection tool. He said, mind you, it's not a guarantee. The content that still has to pass quality checks to get selected for indexing. So just keep that in mind. It's something we know, but it's interesting. Google's talking all about this indexing stuff recently. John Mueller, in a video hangout last week, went ahead and talked about how Google recognizes an author and all the content associated with that author without using authorship. Obviously, Google had a rel authorship back in the day, and it was a way to link one author across multiple properties saying this is the article this author wrote. I guess it was abuse on some level. That being said, Google got rid of authorship years and years and years ago. I'm sad about it. I wish they came back with it, but they're not. And John basically described how they actually go ahead and associate an author. And basically said you need a single landing page for that author. So if the author writes on a specific site, you obviously want to have a bio page about that author. And all the articles that author writes on that website should link back to that bio page. Many of those bio pages actually link back to that author's Twitter profile or social media profile or some type of centralized page, maybe their own website. And then Google could take all those types of articles that person wrote across, not just that website, but other websites as well, and then associate it all with the same person because of those unique social media profiles or unique custom web pages that author has. Just keep that in mind. It seems logical, but Google's never spoken really about that in that detail. Google is getting rid of the Q&A on Google feature, which launched a few years ago, actually, in India, I think in 2019 or so. It's kind of like a beta, but basically a way for searchers to ask questions and get answers. And it's not the question hub that we've been seeing where questions could be submitted and then you can write web pages about it. But this is more of a Q&A where questions are submitted and people can answer those questions without creating web pages. Google's getting rid of it as of, I think, a month or so, June 30th, a couple months. And you could download all your questions and answers and take out page if you want to, but it's going away. So keep that in mind. Google has released their annual Webspam report. This is the 2020 version, which basically goes through all their efforts around blocking spam in web search. And here are some of the highlights. Google discovered 40 billion spammy pages every single day. Every day, 40 billion web pages. In search, they discovered it. And that's an increase of 60% from last year where they discovered 25 billion spammy pages every day. So it's a big increase. Google reduced sites with auto-generated scraped content from showing up in the search results 80% more than a couple of years ago. They reduced hack spam detection capabilities by more than 50%. They did a bunch of COVID stuff. Obviously, with the pandemic, they had to do a lot of security things around that. Google, again, estimated that their automated systems helped keep the search results 99% spam-free. That's exactly the same metric as last year, 99% spam-free. And Google also said they made significant progress in improving our coverage and protecting users against online scams and so forth. So keep that on mind. Google's doing a lot there. I have a little bit of a rant on DA, domain authority. It's a Moz metric. So there was this happens all the time. It's just it's constantly happening where I get emails or I see people trying to buy and sell based off of DA. That was the issue we had with Google PageRank. Google obviously hid their PageRank score to get webmasters, SEO, site owners to focus on the real important things like building a better website and not looking at specific metrics like PageRank. And now we have DA. And DA, we've talked about this numerous times. I honestly think these metrics are hurting our industry. I think it's having our industry focus on the wrong things. Instead of spending money on building a better website or doing real marketing, people are buying and selling DA in order to improve their DA, in order to buy and sell more DA. It's kind of a vicious cycle. And the thing is, if you're buying and selling DA with obviously not a no follow on it, then even if you're doing it, why would you do follow or no follow? I don't get the purpose of buying and selling DA. Obviously, you want your DA to go up because then your site's more valuable, that you can sell your more DA. But this is a vicious cycle. You see, people are just buying and selling DA in order to buy and sell DA for a higher price on their websites and so forth. It's this vicious cycle, and the whole thing is Google's not going to count it anyway. Google doesn't use DA. We all know that, but it's just this vicious cycle. And then you're buying more DA, you're spending more, focusing your resources and money on the wrong metrics. It's just upsetting to see. And I feel like I've been writing about this for so long and just people aren't getting it. And you guys obviously who are watching my videos, you get it. You watch my videos every week. But the people, the vast majority of the higher level digital marketing space or online industry community outside of the SEO niche, they just don't get it. And we have this metric. And I really think at this point, we should have companies like Moz, Majestic, SEMrush, all these vanity metrics to have huge disclaimers on it. Do not buy and sell. Google doesn't use it. And they've been trying, but maybe it's time for them to get rid of it. Like Google got rid of PageRank's visible scores years and years ago. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the answer is. If you know what the answer, if you have any ideas what the answers are, please comment below. Let me know what you think. I think we as an industry need to do something so that those who are not involved in the day-to-day like us don't go ahead and go around this vicious cycle over and over again, which ends up actually hurting their websites because they're spending their time and resources focusing on the wrong things. Hopefully that makes sense, and feel free to let me know in the comments what you think. John Mueller said there's no such thing as a do follow attribute. A lot of people in the SEO industry say, yeah, it's a do follow link, but adding a rel equals do follow doesn't make it follow. Every link by default is a follow link unless you have a rel no follow, a rel UGC, rel sponsored, or you block it completely using some other method. This is interesting. Martin Splitt from Google talked about the web rendering service, WRS. And he said there's a layer on top of that web rendering service that he doesn't really know much about, but he does know enough about it just to tell us that there is a layer above it. And that layer does things like, and he said, prioritization, error retry, quality or service guarantees, caching, and it also interacts with the crawling subsystem to actually fetch things. So that layer is there above the web rendering service. The web rendering service doesn't do much outside of rendering. And he said this is spilling the beans a little bit. I'm not sure if he really did spill the beans, but I never heard anybody actually talk about that. So it's definitely interesting to learn a little bit more about how Google works. So in the EU, Google had a mandate to go ahead and show show links to other search providers, so Yelp and so forth, to basically link to them. So what they did was they added this box a year or so ago, maybe more, about a year ago, called Find Results On. And that includes links to other search engines like Yelp, Craigslist, a bunch of other search engines, not Bing, obviously, but like niche search engines to that. And it was asked, like, is Google doing this manually? And John Mueller said, no, it's all algorithmic. It's all handled by machines in terms of what service they should use and so forth. So that's all algorithmic. Although when it probably launched, it probably was somewhat manual, but maybe not. Maybe Google likes to handle this all algorithmically. I'm not sure. John Mueller gave, again, his number one SEO advice. It's to be consistent. And he said, SEO lives and dies with consistency. And I totally agree. We cover this, I think, every year for the past few years or so. And again, consistency is crazy important, not just for SEO, but for day-to-day life in general. So keep that in mind. Google is testing search results for products with larger images and new interfaces. Let me just show some screenshots from Sad and Glenn Gabe, so you can see that over there as well. Microsoft Bing is testing related search for query refinements in a sticky footer. So as you scroll through the page, at the bottom of the thing, it sticks to the bottom and it shows you related queries there, which is pretty cool. Google is testing a new search box that shows you it shows you more specific searches. So that's pretty interesting. Google Ads has released a new version of Google Ads API, version 7.0. This version actually not only brings more features, but also brings 100% or almost 100% parity between the old Google AdWords API and the Google Ads API in general. There's a Google AdWords API, which is the old one, and then the Google Ads API. Hopefully you get that. And the Google AdWords API is shutting down in a year from now. So the old AdWords API is going away. You have a year to migrate over to the new Google Ads API, which has been around for over a year now. So keep that in mind. And then Google has added a bunch of features to the travel search. They think as the world opens up again, hopefully post-pandemic, hopefully we're at that point at some point very soon. They added a bunch of things around COVID restrictions, around how to find new destinations and so forth. Also about road trips. So definitely take a look at that if you're interested in traveling. And finally, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, they all released their earnings this week, Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. And with that, Google Ads earnings are up. On the ad side, well, their ad earnings in general are up 34%. Their ads earnings, their search ads earnings are up about 32%. And their Microsoft Bing ads, specifically on the search advertising side, is up 17%. I think Facebook said that it's now 30% more expensive to advertise on Facebook, which is pretty interesting. In any event, it seems like everything on the market is back to normal or even better, like there was no pandemic. Hopefully you guys are doing well financially, doing well mentally, doing well emotionally and healthy wise and physically and so forth. Hope everybody has a great weekend. That was the search news we covered over at the Search Engine Roundtable, SEOroundtable.com over the past week. My name again is Barry Schwartz, and I'm sorry this video went a little bit longer, but feel free to comment and let me know what you thought. Everyone have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys next. Goodbye.